I took a couple of weeks off for the holidays, and of course, that's when MAGA completely implodes when I'm not here to talk about it. So as you could have guessed, I've obviously been chomping at the bit to talk about this story, but I want to start on a more serious note by pointing out that when you strip away the drama and the schadenfreude from this story, which I enjoy, which we will talk about, by the way, of course, what remains at the center is a reality check for Donald Trump supporters that should awaken class consciousness within them, at least in theory. Now, is that going to happen? Probably not. But on the off chance one of them finds this video, I want to connect the dots for them and explain how they fell for the oldest trick in the book: divide and conquer. So by now, I'm sure you're all well aware of the fact that the straw that broke the camel's back was this dispute about H-1B visas, which is a program that was created under the Immigration Nationality Act of 1952, which allows employers to hire immigrants for specialized jobs. Now, it's capped per year, but nonetheless, this is the issue that made MAGA furious. Now, Trump's MAGA base dislikes it because, one, they're against any and all non-white immigration, even if it's legal, and two, because there's a concern that these visas will ultimately displace American workers with foreign workers who are willing to work for less just for the chance to come to America. Now, on the flip side, MAGA oligarchs like H-1B visas because foreign workers on H-1B visas are basically indentured servants for all intents and purposes, and their ability to stay in this country hinges on them retaining employment from the company that got them that visa, which means they can be used, they can be abused, and there is zero recourse for that abuse because if they complain, well, think about it, they could lose their job and thus be forced to leave the country. It's extremely cruel and fucked up, but that's why employers like Elon Musk like them. And even though he says that he wants reform, employers like him lobby the government to keep it this way, in a status of perpetual cruelty and exploitation. Now, in case it wasn't already painfully obvious, there's no good guys in this dispute. This is effectively a fight between white supremacist nativists and oligarchs like Elon Musk, with innocent immigrants and workers caught in the middle. And what I am challenging MAGA to do is see the common cause that they have with immigrants, because nobody should be exploited. Everyone can win, both U.S. workers and immigrants. See, U.S. workers could not be displaced if they were in unions and had better workplace protections, and immigrants, who should also benefit from those same protections, also deserve the opportunity to be able to come to America without the fear of losing it all if they piss off their employer. We are the richest country on the planet, and this doesn't have to be a zero-sum game. Everyone can win. And that class solidarity is what's missing here, specifically because Trump primed his followers to think that immigrants were the cause of all of their problems. So, of course, they were always instinctively going to see this as an us versus them issue. But this H-1B debate demonstrates how that anti-immigrant bullshit that Trump spewed was simply meant to distract you from seeing the real enemy, the rich people, including Trump, who's only interested in robbing you blind. And if he is complaining about immigrants and telling you that they are the cause of all of your problems, you're not going to question him. And I say this because, as you've seen by now, Mr. Mass Deportation himself sided with Elon Musk, his biggest donor, and American oligarchs over his own supporters. And don't get it twisted, he obviously is a fascist who plans on screwing over as many immigrants as possible, but that goal is secondary to his primary objective, which is to enrich himself and his rich buddies. How do I know this? Because his only major legislative achievement during his first term was tax cuts for the rich. In fact, to celebrate that accomplishment, he told his rich buddies in Mar-a-Lago that they all just got a lot richer because of him. And take a guess as to what his first goal is during his second term. Trillions of dollars in tax cuts, disproportionately for oligarchs like himself and Elon Musk, as a thank you for helping him get elected. And the only debate about this within the GOP elite circles is how much austerity they're going to enact to pay for it, which is obviously going to hurt working Americans. Not to mention, he's already gently letting people know his tariffs will, in fact, lead to higher consumer prices, and he's already lowering expectations about his ability to bring down the cost of groceries too. But if you throw in austerity to the mix as well, the amount of pain and suffering that this administration is going to inflict on Americans will be significant. And what hurts most to some of Trump's supporters is that deep down, I think a lot of them knew that his economic policies would probably harm them too, but they didn't care so long as immigrants were harmed the most, since they were led to believe that immigrants were indeed the cause of all of their problems. So they thought of it as short-term pain for long-term gain. If we can temporarily fuck over ourselves and squash this immigrant threat or problem, then we'll all be better off in the long term. But all of a sudden, after running on mass deportation and being against H-1B visas for years, Trump did what his billionaire daddies told him to do. He caved. And now even the biggest selling point for Trump supporters is now gone.
Nobody knows the system better than me. I know the H-1B. I know the H-2B. Nobody knows it better than me. I know the H-1B very well, and it's something that I frankly use, and I shouldn't be allowed to use. We shouldn't have it. Very, very bad for workers.
As we speak, we're finalizing H-1B regulations so that no American worker is replaced ever again. H-1Bs should be used for top, highly paid talent to create American jobs, not as inexpensive labor program to destroy American jobs.
Why did you change your mind on H-1B visas, sir?
I didn't change my mind. I've always felt we have to have the most competent people in our country. We need competent people. We need smart people coming into our country. And we need a lot of people coming in. We're going to have jobs like we've never had before.
But sir, you said you changed.
Yeah. So in response, a lot of Trump supporters with cognitive dissonance are now asking themselves why, after promising mass deportation, Trump is now saying we need a lot of people coming in. It's antithetical to everything that he ran on. Now, to give you a hint, it's because it was never really about immigrants. He was scapegoating them and making you believe that they're the reason why things are so bad in this country. And while you were focused on them, people like Donald Trump and Elon Musk and other rich people, they were robbing you blind. And while a sizable portion of MAGA has now turned on Elon Musk, which is genuinely encouraging to see, I mean, not enough of them are actually being introspective about Donald Trump. Not enough of them are seeing through the scam that is so-called right-wing populism. But with that being said, some of them are. And seeing angry Trump supporters come to the realization that they were duped is probably one of the most entertaining things that I've ever seen. So without further ado, here's some viral reactions to Trump's betrayal, courtesy of Michaela Bramwell of Yahoo News. So somebody asked conservatives on Reddit if they were excited about Trump's upcoming inauguration, and this right-leaning person says, quote, "I was, but his recent statements on H-1B ruined it for me. He completely flipped on the issue, and to me, it looks like he's caving to the pressure from big tech and Elon Musk. We did not vote for him to increase, quote, legal immigration. We don't need many more people coming in, like he said recently. It's a slap in the face to his voters, to be honest. It's obvious this isn't even a country anymore. It's just an economic zone to be exploited." Oh my God, this person is so close to getting it. This person says, "I didn't vote for globalization and importing people from countries that hate us. We voted for America first." No, you didn't. Now, in response to Trump's quote saying, "We need a lot of people coming in," this person says, "It's so over." And this person replies, "This man could have been an emperor in 2020. Half the country was literally willing to die for him. People did die for him. He could have crossed the Rubicon that day in January, and he just walked away, and now completely trashed his own political legacy." Very interesting take here. Donald Trump is now reposting Elon Musk's pro-immigration sentiments. So we're talking about more immigrants before mass deportations even start? This is not what we voted for. Betrayal at its finest. We were basically used to keep him out of prison. Exactly. WTF is going on here? This is not what we voted for. The American people don't want to trade illegal invasion for legal invasion. Stop H-1B like you promised. Don't make the American people compete with the world for their jobs. And perhaps my favorite, did we get fucking swindled? Somebody responds saying, "It really couldn't have been more obvious. Yeah, let's trust the guy who plates his toilet in gold to stick up for the little guy. Seems like it." Inject all of those comments into my veins. Now, I want to stop right there because I think it's important to note that these examples, they are not representative of the broader MAGA movement. A lot of them place most of the blame on Elon Musk over Donald Trump. But for the ones that do feel betrayed by him, now is the time to change your level of analysis. Ask yourself, who has power in this situation, immigrants or rich people? Whoever has the real power is the actual cause of all of your pain and suffering. And you can substitute immigrants with any other group, Muslims, trans people, people of color. But I need you to understand that whenever a politician or an oligarch tries to scapegoat an entire group of people with no money and no power, you need to train yourself to see that as class warfare. They're trying to get you to turn on other working class people so you never see the elites at the top as the real enemies. It is the oldest trick in the book, and I am begging you to stop falling for it. And they think that you're stupid enough to fall for it again and again and again, and a lot of people are. But you need to rise to the occasion and prove them wrong once and for all. You need to see that you have much more in common with every immigrant than any billionaire. But with that being said, on the other side of the divide, you had people in Trump's base come to a very different realization than these people. I'm talking about the people who lied to themselves about the reality of the MAGA movement, who are now realizing, oh, so they weren't just being ironic when they talked about the Great Replacement conspiracy theory or the browning of America. For example, Republican Anna Gorsuch on Twitter writes, I officially regret my vote for Trump. Nobody said anything on the campaign trail about attacking legal immigrants or tossing out H-1B employees. I mean, he literally attacked legal immigrants and said he was going to deport legal Haitian immigrants in Springfield, but, you know, carry on. The top 0.1% means EB1s only. O1s are of extremely limited value as an employment visa. I'm in favor of reform, but this is a new and startling restrictionist and nativist approach. To my Indian friends, I will not stay silent. You are not the problem. So on one hand, I appreciate her honesty, and I think it is important for people who voted for Donald Trump to push back against the demonization of Indians, since they're kind of at the center here, because there's this idea that Indians disproportionately benefit from H-1B visas, and it's used as a Trojan horse to bring in a lot of people from India specifically. Now, the reason why it appears like that is the case is because there are more applications from India that were processed after a massive backlog. But, you know, people who are conditioned to think conspiratorially think that there's something nefarious here, and this is just about making America India or something like that. But the important point here is that you should never blame them for the exploitative practices of your employers. Indian people are victims just like you are, right? Elites will replace every single worker with robots and AI as soon as that's possible. So that is why solidarity with workers around the globe is so crucial, because we are all in the same late-stage capitalist boat. And if we all don't stop this threat, then we all are going to suffer. But while I appreciate Anna's tweet, I mean, I've got to ask, is it really that surprising that the movement that called for mass deportation has become explicitly nativist, and they're even against legal immigration? I mean, are you really that surprised by that, Anna? They literally proudly displayed signs calling for mass deportation on television at the RNC. They couldn't have been any more clear if they tried to. Trump quoted Hitler, and they saw nothing wrong with that. But what's so funny now is to see people like Anna and also Patrick Bet-David, a right-wing influencer, come to this realization that they are never going to fully be part of MAGA. Why? Well, because of their background. Now, after the election was over, you know, they cast their votes, their usefulness was completely up. And PBD explained why he's starting to think that MAGA is maybe a tad bit more white nationalist than he initially thought. Right? So this is a video that he shared on Twitter. I want to play this for you because it is so illuminating.
The tweets, I said, our founding fathers, a guy responds back and says, those are not your founding fathers. Mm-hmm. Guy posts a picture of the Shah of Iran, says, that's your founding father. Oh, so funny. But that tells you what, you know, a part of this, there's nationalists and there's white nationalists. Mm-hmm. White nationalists, Vinny, don't want people like us here. I know. They just don't. White nationalists are a very different model. You view me as go back to Iran, deport Elon back to, what do you call it, South Africa, deport Vivek back to India, right? And you make those types of comments. All right, I don't think that's majority of America. I think that's less than 5%. No,
that is the far right.
America. Yeah, that's the far right.
Ultra-nationalists.
That's the far right. And the far left wants open borders and let everybody come in here. Let's legalize everyone. The far right wants, if you're not a white nationalist, get the hell out of here. The problem here is you as a consumer not knowing the position of the individual before they say it, and you think everyone is in that position. They're not. Not everyone's in that position.
I'm sorry, was that identity politics that I heard from the PBD podcast? Did Patrick Bet-David go woke? Am I mistaken here? Interesting. But in all seriousness, Patrick, I'm going to need you to wear this dunce cap and stand in the corner next to all the gay Republicans who also thought that they would be welcomed into the MAGA movement. Oh, what's that? You don't want to stand next to them because you also don't like gay people? Interesting. You know, to be fair, I'm sure that those gay Trump supporters who you don't like probably don't like you as well for reasons. Hey, has any one of you ever considered that it's a little bit coincidental that the one thing all of you have in common in MAGA is that you hate at least one other group with no money and no power? Interesting, right? Connect the dots. That's what I'm trying to help you do. Connect the dots and understand the game that's being played. I mean, these people were all blinded by their hatred of some other working class group, and they didn't realize that the real enemy was the rich people at the top. And everyone in MAGA can either take note of that and unite with the people that have been the targets of hate, that they've been groomed to hate, or they can just keep getting exploited by oligarchs. Because in 5 minutes, when they say, oh, it's this other group, it's Muslims now, it's not immigrants, you're going to fall for it, and then they're going to do the same thing where they run on hating Muslims, and then they get in office, cut their taxes, deregulate, fuck you over, and then nothing gets better. Like, learn. I'm trying to get you to learn, right? We've all been in this predicament before. Politics is difficult. It's complicated. There's a lot of propaganda. But what matters is that you apply yourself and you learn after being taken advantage of. But I do love that so many conservatives with persecution complexes are actually facing real persecution because they actually, perhaps accidentally, challenge real power for the first time. Laura Loomer, for example, learned this the hard way, writing on Twitter, quote, Elon Musk has removed my blue check mark on X because I dared to question his support for H-1B visas, the replacement of American tech workers by Indian immigrants, and I question his relationship with China. Looks like Elon Musk is going to be silencing me for supporting original Trump immigration policies. I have always been America first and a diehard supporter of President Trump, and I believe that promises made should be promises kept. Donald Trump promised to remove the H-1B visa program, and I support his policy. Now, as one of Trump's biggest supporters, I'm having my free speech silenced by a tech billionaire for simply questioning the tech oligarchy. Elon has decided to retaliate by removing my blue check and demonetizing me. I guess he doesn't really believe in free speech. She added, so after Elon Musk took away my verification, I just received an email from X charging me for X Premium, even though I can't access Premium because my blue check and subscribers have been taken away. So you banned me from the service and then charged me for it? How is that ethical? It's not, but he has all the power and you don't, so there's nothing you can do about it. And since she personally experienced the crushing power of Elon Musk's billionaire boot herself, well, the gears are now turning in her head because she's thinking about the broader consequences of a society where certain individuals are allowed to amass so much wealth that they're effectively able to buy government.
And what we need to have a conversation about is what is it going to mean for the future of our country, our national security, and the incoming Trump administration if we have a bunch of technocrats who are also essentially welfare queens because their companies are receiving government subsidies and they want to take over our defense industry. If you have a bunch of tech bros with billions of dollars and direct unfettered access to the vice president and the president of the United States, and then they are also, very cordial with our adversaries, as in China and Iran. We see that Elon Musk is having these meetings off the books with Iranian officials, with Chinese officials. What does that mean for us and the future of our constitutional republic?
Okay, hang on.
So she is seemingly starting to realize that it's dangerous to allow people to become wealthy enough to buy governments, since their interests aren't necessarily aligned with the interests of the people that the government is supposed to be representing in theory. The question is, will she take it a step further and tie this to Donald Trump, since he is the one who whored himself out to Elon Musk in the first place? Well, the answer is, of course not, because at the end of the day, this is still a cult, and Daddy Trump can never do anything wrong. Now, I say this because after her little soliloquy, she made sure to clarify that, of course, she still very much stands Donald Trump. But I mean, Laura Loomer is just the tip of the iceberg. Anyone who had the audacity to challenge Elon Musk on the platform that he bought also got the Laura Loomer treatment. For example, an account that was arguing with him in the aftermath of the H-1B visa kerfuffle was nuked completely shortly after their exchange, and now we have no idea what they even said. But apparently, they said something to piss him off. Now, also a handful of white nationalist Groyper accounts, who were the most vocally opposed to Musk's position for obvious reasons, were also banned. Not for being white supremacists, of course, but because they challenged Elon Musk directly, which is a no-go on his platform. And it's so funny that all of the people who said nothing about Musk's censorship of journalists and queer people and dissent of opponents to governments like India, all of a sudden, they have a problem with his censorship because it's affecting them personally. But putting that aside, the lesson some people are learning is that there are consequences for actions when you actually challenge those in power, which put people like Alex Jones in a really awkward position because he was finally allowed back on Twitter. But I think that from his perspective, just ideologically speaking, if he has an ideology, everybody kind of expected him to side with the white nationalists and MAGA against Elon Musk in this dispute. But he did not do that, which prompted this reaction from him, which I find hilarious, after he was accused of being a sellout to Elon Musk and an Elon Musk bootlicker.
What the hell? And he's exposing Jeffrey Epstein and the CIA. Hell, last week he put out tweets about the CIA at war with America. God almighty. Jones sold out retweeting that. God, I apologize to all of you. I'm sorry. I sold out. I tried to stop the pedophile rings, the giant Muslim kidnapping rings. I'm sorry. I kissed Elon Musk's ass. We're so close to getting the globalists. I want their throat. I want victory. And now you can see it. And you guys think you're going to harass Elon Musk and push him off of supporting Trump and divide Trump and Elon? You're not. We have already beaten your ass. Oh, let's continue.
You love to see it. So listen, in conclusion, my hope is that at least some Trump supporters start to see the game that's being played by these fascists. They're exploiting your justifiable rage towards the system, and they're getting you to blame people as powerless as you when it's the people at the top you should be looking at, because they are the common enemy that is keeping all of us down. Immigrants, U.S. workers, all of us. But if this split in MAGA doesn't lead to some sort of a class awakening for at least some people, which I'm not too optimistic, I will say it is still very encouraging for the fact that a fractured fascist movement isn't going to be as effective as a united front. The real question is how disruptive this is going to be to the top of the MAGA hierarchy, because, you know, you have people like Steve Bannon and Stephen Miller with real power. They're at odds with oligarchs in MAGA like Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. And these folks have irreconcilable differences on this issue. So one side has to win and the other side has to lose. Steve Bannon is an actual ideologue. He's a true believer in his fascist agenda, whereas Elon Musk is just kind of in this for the subsidies and the tax cuts. One side has to win and the other has to lose. The question is, how will the losing side react to their loss? Will they bring everyone else in MAGA down with them? And I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But in the meantime, while MAGA is divided, I think it's our turn to conquer. We need to point the finger at the real common enemy and build true class solidarity if we're serious about changing this country for the better.
Do yourself a favor and click the join button on YouTube to become a member. Because Mike's doing a great job getting to watch his videos before everyone else is tremendous. Many people are saying this. Join today, folks. You won't regret it.